is that everybody said, well, we've all seen the ship go over the horizon, hull first. That's the like one of the top knee-jerk responses. We've all seen, ships disappear hull first. Well, yeah, they do, except they do so rather quickly. And when you look at the math, it's only an 8-inch drop per mile. So, I mean, they're not very far out. I mean, even if they're 2 miles out, it's only 32-inch drop. So you're not going to lose that much of the hull at 2 miles that you typically, when you're looking out there, you're seeing like the whole hull disappear at 2 miles. So again, we're either on a really small Earth or something's up with that. You can zoom in with a camera and see more than you can see with your eye of the hull. And the big thing for me is it never changes its visual vertical perspective. If it's going over the edge of the ball away from you, then the visual perspective should be such that the top of the mast is leaning away from you, the viewer. So you'd have that, the parallax, your perspective would change. Same thing with cities viewed at a distance. And some of you may have seen it, but that dude took a picture, Joshua Nowicki took a picture of Chicago from 60 miles away, the other side of Lake Michigan. Now, if I just showed you this picture, you'd say, wow, what a pretty picture of the Chicago skyline. As soon as you tell somebody where that picture was taken, your cognitive dissonance kicks in and you're like, no, that's impossible. You can't, it's 60 miles away. The top of the Sears Tower should be like 900 feet below the horizon.
Wow.
And yet you can see it. And so what does this knucklehead do? He tries to explain it away.
Until I found this photo from Grandmere State Park. This is from Joshua Nowicki. And what you're seeing here is a mirage. We typically would not be able to see this from the Lake Michigan shore. We talked about this last night. Conditions are right on the lake that we're actually seeing a mirage of the Chicago skyline. Very interesting. Here's what's happening. This is a good example of a superior mirage. So Joshua was on the Lake Michigan shore. He was looking towards the west, and Chicago's beyond the horizon. Should not be able to see it. However, with the right conditions, we have an inversion. We have cold air near the cold lake water and some relatively warmer air above it. This will bend the image of that skyline back towards the viewer. And so typically we would not be able to see this. This image would be viewable from much, much higher in the sky, up in space. But instead, we're able to see it on the Lake Michigan shore. Very fascinating. And that's the same reason.
He doesn't even believe what he's saying.
Right.
I mean, really, have you seen a mirage? A mirage is like usually inverted or wavy or distorted. You don't get perfectly symmetrical, straight up and down, clean lines like this with a mirage. I'm sorry. It just doesn't work. And my buddy Rick Hummer, he's like, dude, I've seen Chicago, because he lives not far from where this picture was taken. Yeah, he said, I've seen it. We've all seen it. He said, no, what I'm going to do, I'm gonna get a boat and wait for a clear day when we can see the Chicago skyline, and I'm going to start filming from this side of Lake Michigan and film it the entire way over there. And if it's a mirage, then what you should see is the city magically disappear, and then as you go over the ball, you should see the city start to kind of rise up over the ball in view. But I have a silly sinking suspicion that that's not going to happen. I think the city's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger because you can see it. But this is impossible on a ball. Now, I'm taking all of this third hand. I'm going to go out and do tests for myself, because when I do my own tests, I don't know if this is Photoshop. I don't know. I take it that this is legitimate, but, I'm not there. So I'm going to do my own test. And if my own test confirms something like this, dude, I'm a flat earther. Because this is, the math says on a 25,000 mile circumference ball that, the curvature is calculable. You can calculate it. And things you should not be able to see. And so I'm doing all this stuff at the beach. I'm not seeing anything. I go to I go out to dinner with a friend of mine who is helping me write scripts for Seed. And he's like, I've been following your stuff on Facebook. He goes, I got to tell you something. He said, I used to be a lifeguard in Ventura Beach, Ventura Fairgrounds or whatever. And he said, on a clear day, we could look across almost 20 miles and see the Anacapa Arch. It's one of these island arch deals. The top of this is 40 feet off the water, and the bottom of the arch right here is 25 feet off the water. He says, but I took this picture. He's like, you can see it. Well, let's 20 miles away, the top of the arch should be over 200 feet below the horizon. You should not be able to see that. So he went to a math professor, and because we're talking about this, as dude, do you know anybody that can confirm this math? Because like you, I'm not a math person either. This was given to me by a globalist, not a flat earther. Somebody who believes in the globe said this is the circumference geometry, whatever, spherical geometry that proves the curve. Okay, great. So these are the numbers they gave me. So he went to confirm this with a college level math professor. Says, are these numbers correct? Yes. Okay, so here's the math problem. Something about 18 miles away, the top of it's 40 feet high. How far below the curvature of the Earth should the top of it be? And he did the math. It was like 200 and something feet. And my friend says to the math professor, well, the problem is you're saying we shouldn't see it, right? Yeah, that's right. You should definitely not be able to see it. He says, yeah, but we all have. We've all seen it. What are you talking about? The Anacapa Arch. And all of a sudden the math professor's doing the Flintstone, as the gerbil's jumping off the wheel in his head. This is the kind of stuff that's been happening.